You and I will travel far on this trip of harmony. The course ahead is long, but together we'll be strong to make our dream a reality.
Our work here will echo through generations from today. We won't compromise, there's chance to realize a brighter future their own way. Let's advance as one, build on the work we've done. Hand in hand, you and me, towards sustainability.
And this trip we're traveling on
We'll need every hand on board. With open hearts and minds, we must leave no one behind. Till the day our sins truly one. Let's advance as one, build on the work we've done. Hand in hand, you and me, towards sustainability.
and this trip we're traveling on
We'll need every hand on board. With open hearts and minds, we must leave no one behind. Till the day our sins truly one. Let's advance as one, build on the work we've done. Hand in hand, you and me, towards sustainability. Let's advance as one, build on the work we've done. Hand in hand, you and me, towards sustainability.
Okay, that was our celebration for the ASEAN 2019 in Region 10. So, bibo kayo, no? Successful katong celebration. So, for this year, for 2020, we are once again inviting in joining all our higher education institutions in Region 10 in the celebration of the 53rd founding anniversary of ASEAN. So, we are embarking our efforts based on the ASEAN, or building on Vietnam's chairmanship with the theme Cohesive and Responsive ASEAN. This is in line with the current challenges faced by the country and the regions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are going to highlight the key aspirations of the ASEAN 2025 under the pillar of the ASEAN socio-cultural community. So we are, the Regional Commission is advancing to promote the celebration of ASEAN community. The opening of classes comes August, next month na. So For CHED Region 10, we are having these regional activities. We will be having ASEAN Assembly or the launching of ASEAN 2020. We will be having a regional display of excellence. So this will be form part of a contest. So we are inviting higher education institutions to join the display of excellence of our students in the field of tourism photography, essay writing contest, spoken poetry, and poster making contest aligned with the theme of the Cohesive and Responsive ASEAN 2020. We will also be conducting webinar on foreign students together with our Interagency Council of Foreign Students in Region 10, and of course the DOH. After that, we will culminate on our activity with awarding ceremony. So once again, we are inviting and joining higher education institutions to join our display of excellence. And you may also have your initiatives on how you are going to promote ASEAN awareness to our students. So, miski nag-pandemic we will not be magpapildi sa COVID-19. Still, we move forward, we go on, the more we strive forward on the usual things that we naturally do, we still celebrate. Miski pa, even in the new normal situation, we still afford to celebrate. So one of the objectives of these activities is for us to have opportunities to celebrate ASEAN, of course, strengthening ASEAN community building, and increase the promotion of tourism in the region. So again, I'm calling higher education institutions, specifically the student affairs services coordinators, to please tap your students, students who are good in tourism photography, essay writing, spoken poetry, and poster making. So not merely competition, but a display of excellence. Okay, so these are the CHED Central Office is downloading funds for us to celebrate. We have the regional display of excellence for tourism photography. Kindly invite your students. It's very attractive award, which first place will have 10,000, second place 8,000 plus trophy, third place 5,000 plus trophy, and the others will have a consolation awards of 2,500. Then for the essay writing, spoken poetry, and poster making, the first place will have in 8,000 plus trophy, the second place 6,000 plus trophy, the third place 4,000 plus trophy, and consolation prize will be 2,000 for students. So may naman lang nino makatabang sa ilahan no kani ang ato mga prize. So declared winners will be promoted to CHED Central Office for promotion and publication of their artworks. So we will also be giving recognition awards for HCI's initiative in celebrating ASEAN. So we will be asking higher education institutions on August during the opening of classes, you may want to integrate ASEAN celebration in the opening of classes. Of course, mag-adjust for our new normal situation. So that's your initiative. So we will be recognizing all your efforts also for the ASEAN celebration. So with that, thank you so much. Please join us as we promote awareness for ASEAN community. Thank you so much. So for tomorrow also, we will be joining everyone for our 2020 Regional Quality Awards. So this will be on 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow. You are cordially invited to witness our HCIs will be receiving the Regional Quality Awards. You may watch the live video streaming via CHED 10 Facebook account. So please join us as we celebrate together for our success school year 2019-2020. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Rose, for the announcement. So, hello and good morning to everyone who is subscribed to today's webinar. I am Arvin Arvaza from the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, and I will be facilitating today's session. But before we begin with our activity, let us ask for guidance and blessings from our Almighty Being. So let us pause for a solemn moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to learn something, especially that we are transitioning to flexible learning. We pray that as we go through our session today, give our speakers the presence of mind and also guide us that we'll be able to withstand every obstacle that you have set for ourselves this year. As we tackle today's discussions and topics, we pray that you will bless us more, and we hope that all of these that we are learning from this session will be instilled, not only in our minds, but also in our hearts. This we ask in your most holy name. Amen. Okay, so once again, good morning to all those who are turned into our live webinar via Facebook Live. So if you have colleagues who wish to join us today, please invite them to go to CHED Regional Office 10's official Facebook page, where they can find the video thumbnail of this webinar. So before we proceed to the core of our session today, please allow me to give you updates regarding the learning management system. So far there are 1,900 participants who have successfully registered, and we have sent emails of their login credentials for their LMS accounts. However, if you haven't received any of our email, please check your email's spam folder, because they have been redirected there. But just in case you really could not find the email, we will provide you with the registration link of today's session at the CHED Regional 10 Facebook page. So ilalagay po namin doon. Okay? So once you click on the link, you may create a new account, and please wait for the email confirmation from us. With the subject Flex, along with it would be a link to confirm that you have successfully created your account. Now, please remember your usernames and passwords to avoid login problems later. And also, when you are required to add your email, please use your active email and your legitimate email that is the one you entered upon registration. And also, the registration is only active within the duration of the webinar and shall be closed once the session is concluded. So once you are registered, you will become an official part of the participants. Okay, so now let's put that all aside, and now allow me to introduce our first resource speaker of the day. So I will share my screen right now. All right. Okay. So our first speaker, she earned her undergraduate and master's degrees at USTP, formerly MUST, where she graduated with a bachelor's degree in industrial education, major in mathematics, and a master of science in teaching mathematics, respectively. So she also earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Education in Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan. She was part of the Xavier University Center for the Advancement in Teaching for 6 years. She has conducted numerous seminar workshops on advanced research statistics, assessment of learning methods, test construction of all types, research-based teaching strategies, to name a few. Some of her recognitions include an award from Xavier University Ateneo de Cagayan Magis Award for Outstanding Administrator in 2012, outstanding alumni in the field of education in 2015 from Pilgrim Christian College. And currently, she is the director of the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning at the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines. Our dear faculty of the mission, let us welcome Dr. Amparo V. Dinansa.
Thank you very much. May I ask if I'm coming in very clear and if the PowerPoint is also clear to our participants? I'd like to thank our dear colleagues in the profession for extending their understanding. Last time, I think due to we were challenged with technology, there were intermittent signal coming from my end last time. Thank you for your understanding. The PowerPoint was not very clear to our audience last Tuesday. Thank you for your understanding. So today, what we're going to discuss and what I'm going to share, and I hope this is going to be helpful for everyone, is on designing assessments of learning. So if you have some concerns, if you wish to contact me, my email is there, amparo.binagsao@usdp.edu.ph, but I'm commonly called by my colleagues Miss Amphi or just simple Miss A. So our flow for this morning, I'll talk about principles of effective assessments and then give some ways on how we can adhere to these principles. And then we'll talk about assessing the students' performance in the new normal, just to give some ideas and tips, because in the past, I have had also tried blended learning in my class even before this pandemic, and so this is coming from my experiences. And then because designing assessments are and especially that assessments will have to consider both objective and performance-based, maybe I'll have a little bit of a rundown or just a simple reminder on how we can construct our multiple choice tests and some ways on how we can create performance-based tests. In the performance-based test, we have to include also rubric, but since this is going to be quite very long, if I'm going to include the rubric, I will be with you tomorrow, just for the continuity, to share with you how we can create rubrics, and what are the elements and how will that help us in assessments of our students' outcomes. And then towards the end, my colleague will share a bit of the experience on assessments and his assessment plans in the new normal. He was with us during the day 2, Engineer Marcilia. It could be that the sharing is, of course, coming from the engineering. However, I think you can get the tips on some plans and how he does it. So very short also. Okay, so to begin, what exactly is assessment? Maybe we'll just have some kind of leveling off. What do we mean by assessment? So anything that helps you or anything that you do that will help you infer about students' learning. This is about you inferring, determining students' learning, understanding, abilities, and you are gathering data. So whatever you do, where you gather data that will help you determine or that will help you learn that students are developing abilities, understanding, and that they are learning, they are called assessment. So maybe a question right now that we can reflect on before we move on to some principle is, what do we really assess as a faculty and instructor? What do we assess? You can actually send in your comments via Zoom and via Facebook. I'm seeing I can see your response to the Facebook comments. Let's make this interactive. Let's try this out, no? So that when we will be using this with our students, that it feels this way when you are participating in a live lecture. So what do you assess? Can I hear you, our dear participants? What are your reasons why do you assess? And how? How do you do that? How do you assess? And when do you assess? May I hear you? Hearing you from, of course, from the chat, right? Let me share that when we discussed this with my colleagues in my university, we asked the department, because it's very nice when you have the same understanding on why and how and when you assess, no? So I'm seeing response from Marilyn, the students' learning progress. So I'm guessing the response is why. Why do you assess? So that you get. And then scaffolding by Alex. Thank you for the response. So these are questions that you can discuss among your colleagues in the department, so that you have the same understanding, you have the same ideas, you have the same practices. Learners' learning progress from James Lyon. Ma'am Minguez, Dr. Minguez, so that's a Zoom. No? I'm seeing your responses. I'm seeing that we are coming from different places, not only in Region 10. All right. What do you assess by Lizelle? Her answer is the student's performance. Thank you, Lizelle. We assess to determine how far they learn from the lesson, from Ermelina. Others, you may please be active by responding. Assessment is to arrive at the student ability in the learning process of the students. From Marietta, thank you po. We agree, we agree. Vanessa, students' learning performance is being assessed. All right. So what do you assess? It's the learning performance. From Rosalie, if we're coming blurry from you, you may adjust the Facebook quality. Competencies, all right. We assess whether the learning objectives are met from Cherry. Okay. So meaning that you have the learning outcomes or the objectives, and then you wanted to determine if students have already achieved that or are able to demonstrate that. No? Question, do we need to assess our students during the first day of classes online? Leonore, we will answer that, no? What do we assess learning and performance with Deering? All right. And seeing active participants now, Gels. Well then, why do you assess? And it's important to demonstrate their understanding of the subject matter in a critical manner. I like that word. To evaluate whether the standard of the lessons are met. Or very much agree. Gonzalez, we assess to know that the objective has been met or was met. Ma'am Elizabeth, I think this is Remigoso because this is my student, to determine their learning performance. Thank you po, to PhD student. Evaluate students' learning. Assessment is used to measure students' progress. All right. Pupoy, performance vis-a-vis the learning outcomes. Great job. Assessment is to evaluate the learner understanding and performance. We assess the students' learning of engagement in class. Yes, as Marilu. Why do you assess? From Douglas, to measure the teaching efficiency. different perspective. That's great. So meaning that you're assessing to determine if you have been effective. I like teachers are also trying to see whether the learning is effective by also checking or their performance of the students. So from Zoom, I'm getting from Zilla to measure how much the students gain during the previous lessons that have been conducted. Thank you po. I got from Wilvin, how? Using rubrics. All right. We assess students' learning performance. Ray, we assess to know what we should focus on facilitating learning. I like that. L, I believe we should not assume that our students have zero knowledge when they enter the room. We should always put in mind that they have a little knowledge over the topic and assess the extent of the knowledge prior to the discussion. That's a good reminder, Christian. No? So that's the reason why prior knowledge is checked, is determined, is also going to be our starting springboard as we move to what we are going to focus on the day's lesson. So thank you so much. It's nice. You see, it's nice that we are active and that it's nice to say hello, but it's nice that we share also our thoughts. So please do share your thoughts. No judgment. It's just sharing, right? And it's nice that we can create a community of professionals sharing thoughts and no competition among colleges and universities. This is really about helping one another, no? And getting best practices from a college, from a university, and so that will help everyone. We assess the understanding and performance and all that. Thank you very much for your responses. So my advice is for your college, for your department, for your unit to maybe level off. What do you assess? Why? What are the reasons you assess? Because if we know the why, the hows will follow. No? It's easy to determine the hows if we know the why and the what are we looking for and the what are we assessing. And then, of course, then we know when is the most appropriate time to assess. No? So it's important. And so when we did this with our colleagues, a department also had a list, no, of their agreements among their departments on how do they assess, do they really use a rubric, and when do they assess, and how often do they assess, and what exactly are they going to assess. So it's nice that when we talk about within our group, in our department, so that we have leveling off. And so part of the assessment is on do we punish students? Do we also put late marks and all that, no? Or do we deduct? So if people in the same department have the same ways, then our students will not be confused. No? Thank you very much. To make a decision whether to move on to the next lesson, that's from Sulaya. Thank you, thank you. That's the same as Kent a while ago. No? We may start with oral interview, questions and answer. That's the how. I like that, Amelia. Thank you for sharing. All right. So that, no? Very important. So again, anything that you do that will help you understand, you, the faculty, no, that will help you determine whether students are learning, whether they're understanding, whether they're progressing, and anything that will help you determine whether they have already developed the abilities. But of course, the data that you gather has to be informal or formal. No? Meaning that if you're observing them, that's already a data that's coming in. No? But there are also formal ways of doing assessment. So in some of our literature, assessment is systematic collection. There's a systematic collection and analysis of information. To what? To improve student learning. And of course, it is considered as a means, both as a means and an end. No? And it is not a one-time event. So I'm seeing that your answers are, of course, you you do not just give final exams, no? Or from Leonor, when do we assess start and end of the class? Meaning that is per session. And I'm seeing also from Vanessa, they're giving class recitation, participation, quizzes, presentation of activities performed. Yeah, a lot, no, multiple. Thank you. Ma'am Kathleen Morales, we assess throughout the learning process, throughout, not a one-time event, but a dynamic, ongoing process, right? So so you will also see that assessments of assessment as assessment for learning, and that's the reason why these are when and what and how are done, no? So anything so assessments are also we also use this term if we're referring to diagnostic tools for planning instruction. So this is also whatever tools you have, these are considered roadmap, no, for the journey throughout the instructional unit. And these are very important evidence of learning. So anything that the tool is also called assessment. These are the instructional materials that we use to measure student learning. So there are several types of assessments, no? We have pre-instructional, and I'm seeing that they do assess before, during, and after. I'm seeing from Wellben, no? When, so you can see here also, no? There are assessments that we do before and while we are doing the session and at the end of the unit. Very important that we just have the same terms, no? When do we say that it is a formative assessment, and when do we say it's a summative assessment? And these are very important as well, no? To do not just final exam. Formative, if we put it in pictures, these are what you do, activities that you do, or the process or the data that you're gathering, where you are still watering and nurturing and determining what will help. So this may be your questioning in class. This could be your worksheets, work text, some where you can provide feedback. And maybe on the summative assessments, these are already determining whether our students really was able to reach that standard, was able to perform that course outcome and all that. And if you notice, in the summative assessment, this is already judgment. Am I going to pass? No. This is already for grading. So when we just put this in keywords, no, formative, these are assessments that we do where you provide feedback. This is about monitoring. This is about this is planned with teaching. And formative, this has to be more frequent than your summative, because when you do formative, you're helping our students improve. Remember that you are the expert in the field. You are the expert in that discipline, and our students are learning from the expert. And so provide more formative assessments so that you can give advice, so that they will improve. And then in the summative, these are when you try to determine learning, sum up of learning, and this is where you already give grades. And because formative, there's a lot of literature that will tell us that feedback is very helpful. It is very powerful. We have set a day where we also invited other set of resource speakers who will tell us exactly how to do feedback. That's why you have on Monday ways of providing feedback. And we will be joined by Engineer Estampa and Engineer Sierras as well. So here, let us also be participative. Can you go to this Google form and respond? Is this questionable or promising? So and don't worry, I did not request you to give your name, to give your school. You just respond if these practices are questionable or promising. So can we give 4 minutes so that I'll wait for your responses. Please go to this site, to this Google form, http://bit.do/assessment practices. May I request our participants to go to this Google form, respond to this Google form. You just have to click questionable, promising, questionable, promising. We'll see. So let's try to be a student, no? Ano kayang feeling na mag-respond and that your teacher is seeing the responses. All right. Thank you, Sir Castellano, for providing that link. So the participants on Facebook can just click what Sir Mark Anthony Castellanos provided. Mandy, can you click the link? Those in Zoom, I have already provided the link. Oh, I'm seeing XOR done. Thank you. Can I also see from our Facebook friends if you're done with it? Ma'am Marietta, please respond to the form po. There. Salamat, Ma'am Soriano. Ma'am Birch, please. And Sir Kurt, please respond to the Google form. All right. So let me check if we have received some of the responses. Oh, thank you very much. I'm receiving already 50 responses, 61. And 84. All right, 91. You're seeing that's Arvin, right? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, let's discuss about this. So you're seeing this, no? Determine whether, okay. So meaning that in number 1, some of you said questionable. And in number 2, 65 says it's questionable, but medyo pare-pareho, that it is that is promising to administer tests instead of teaching first. I'm receiving 151 responses, and then here using written tests as the exclusive measure for grading. All right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this while I'm receiving. So maybe sana hindi ko muna pinakita, no? Kasi baka it will influence the others na mas marami man ang answer na questionable, so I would answer na lang questionable. So maybe when you're doing this with your students, after the set time, that's the time you also show the results. You know, survey will also influence others, right? Okay, so just this is just a practice that when you're discussing in class and you're doing live, something like that, or you can actually send this way ahead, a link to your students, because this can be accessed even with a cell phone, and if you just send this to the messenger and they can just reply and like that, no? So let's talk about that. Is this assessment practice questionable or promising? Number 1, using tests as punishment. This is nice to know that you do not use tests as punishment, no? So wala na po yung get 1/2 because maingay kayo, or because people are not ready for presentation, then we will have a long test. So when I ask you about Why do you assess? Most of us says that we assess because we wanted to determine if learning occurred or if our students are progressing, and with that. So meaning that hindi doon kasama sa why do we assess, because we wanted to discipline students. Okay, so disciplining and managing a class is a different concern, no? So let's not mix both, all right? So if you notice, we still have 24. We also have 24 among us who says, yeah, you can actually use that. So maybe we will convince them that let's have a different perspective. So when you're doing this with your students will not be scared, no, to respond and commit mistakes and be very honest with how they understood things, because we did not get their we did not get any of their personal data, like their email and all that. So as a faculty, we can also see that that we can take off, we can elaborate on something. Number two, administering tests instead of teaching first. Maybe the reason why there's some parang we're divided at this. Number one, we assess because we wanted to determine if learning occurred, and maybe those who said, yeah, that is correct, that is promising, because that's exactly the point of assessing. We determine whether students have learned. Therefore, that should be during the teaching or after teaching happened, or instruction and the experiences have happened. However, some of us says that's questionable. I'm guessing, no, that this is not okay. This is not okay because you have, yeah, that's why, no, you have to teach first. You have to let the students do an experience first before you determine whether they learn. And some says that's okay because anyway you are giving them a diagnostic test or a pre-test, right? So that's fine. That is even powerful, no? Pre-test, some of our colleagues have used this, and you can use this way for pre-test, no? So that it will give you an idea if they are already, if they have an idea, and what are their thoughts, what paradigm they're using and all that. So you can, it's okay to, but these tests, diagnostic and pre-test, should not affect grading. It should only be used to plan how you're going to move to your next sessions, no? And then 3, using written tests as exclusive measure for grading. No? Using written tests. Some of us says, that's questionable, only written. And then some says, that's also okay, using only written. So you will see that in our principle, it is not okay to only have written. You have to have multiple measures. I'll elaborate more on that. Matching assessment with learning outcome. Of course, no? So most of us, 90% says we have to match our assessment with learning outcomes, all right? And so returning tests, and then returning tests, all right? So most of us says that's questionable. Number 5, that's also questionable. Number 7, that's also questionable. It's only in number 8, that's promising, that's good. And then not showing the class record, that's questionable. Is the class record really a secret? Supposed to be? Okay, and then we have not showing the class record, and then here we have testing material that was not taught. A lot says that is not okay. Let me go back to this. Thank you very much for your responses. All right, so using tests, written tests as the exclusive measure for grading, again, that is something that's questionable. No? We have to also consider other ways of determining whether students are progressing and are learning. Testing material that was not taught, pwede po ba yun? Sabi nyo last time, we only determine whether students are learning after they have the experience. So bakit po we only covered until chapter 10, but the exam is until chapter 15. So parang that's not also, I don't know, fair for our students. Okay? Returning tests to students without offering corrections if we even return at all. Right? So basically and ideally, dapat po nire-rate ang mga mga tests and mga assessments, and please give feedback. It may not really be taxing. No? Choose those that are practical. Using only one method, testing method, again, it's the same as the previous. And most of us says this is not okay. All right. 7, giving tests that students did not know how to take. No? Meaning that you're asking your students during the exam, create a diagram, and then they did not hear anything, and you did not do this in class. So it's going to give us a different data because they did not know how to take that type of test. But they have developed the outcome. They have developed the abilities, their abilities, no? But there's a challenge there. They did not know how to take. So meaning that when we consider assessment, really consider something that is familiar. All right. Number 8, taking too long in returning tests. Have we experienced this when we were in college, that our tests are returned like after a month? And so you will see in a lot of literature that feedback and our corrections will have a diminishing effect if the feedback will come very, very late. No? And number 9, I'm not showing the class record to student. Again, of course, show to the particular student their particular performance. But the class record is a form of transparency, how they are being graded and all that. So, thank you so much. That's good, knowing that we have a similar, I don't know, and let me read this. This is good, no? From Marietta. Returning test questions are necessary so students will know where they made a mistake. This is the teaching and learning process. Thank you for sharing that, ma'am. All right. So now we'll focus on how do we really create our assessments, no? Our assessment tools. And remember that in the first step was we revisit our syllabus, and then we created our course module and our course guide. And by the way, we have responded to all your requests for the course template and course module, templates for course module and course guide. So you may also send us if you need, if you request for that template. We are willing to share. All right. So now that you're trying to complete your course module, the assessment has to be also ready and determine if assessments are aligned to your course outcome. So first that we do when we are designing our assessment is determine the course and the learning module. So as of this moment, maybe you have already crafted that, and then we select and design the methods. No? And later I will share what are the different methods that we can consider. And then we implement assessment methods, collect and analyze data, and change along the way, provide more feedback along the way. And then, of course, we use this data to guide our course improvement. To our students, will our students need more readings? Will our students need more videos to watch? Will they need more time and all that? These data will help us as we move, as we try to help our students develop the competency. And of course, they have to show that they have developed that, that they're able to demonstrate the outcome. So what are the different principles of effective assessment that we have to consider? First, we have to match assessments with learning outcomes. I'm sure, balik-balik na din nino, because when what we are going to look for as they demonstrate to us are those learning outcomes that we set. Did we ask them to do prototype? And so like, so yun lang ang hahanapin natin, no? So it's very nice that we are all considering OBE because it's the best way to learn, no? The best way to learn is to first determine what needs to be achieved. And that's why it's a working backwards thing, no? And that's the reason why in everything that we do, we consider the exit outcomes first, what they are going to develop, what are they going to demonstrate at the end of the course, at the end of the topic, at the end of the session, and then we will provide the strategies, the techniques, and the means, no? So in all here, in OBE, the heart is the student. So Wiggins and Mactai would like to advise us that when we are designing our lessons and our units, when we are designing our course module right now, we think like an assessor, no? Think like an assessor, because this will help us determine if students have attained the desired understanding. So again, match assessments with learning outcomes. That's why the triangle, no? Always emphasized from day one. So if allow me to just review, what do we mean by outcomes? These are what students are expected to demonstrate what they have learned in your session or at the end of the course, if it's course outcomes. And assessment will tell us how they will determine their learning. So first, to be able to determine whether our assessment practices, our assessment ways, our assessment tools are really of high quality and of effective, these are the 6 principles that we need to consider. First, match the assessment with learning outcomes. Next, our assessment should measure deep understanding, performance, and content, no? So first, my question, did we expect our students to analyze, explain, criticize? So if we did expect them to do this, then maybe we have really designed our assessment to measure deep understanding, performance, deep performance, and content. So if we just ask our students to only list, to only tell, is that deep understanding? So just a review, I got this from Engineer Stampa's slide. Just a review. If your outcomes are of these level, lower order thinking skills, then maybe that's not trying to determine deep understanding and performance. So in the higher education institutions, maybe we focus here. We wanted to develop students in the higher education institution to think critically. Siguro naman po, if they think critically, oh, the screen. What happened to the screen?
Yeah.
There. So kanina pa yun? Okay? Alright. Okay, so let me just go back to this because anyway we have discussed that. No. Alright. Let's see. So again, in the principles of effective assessments, we determine whether our tools, our processes have matched assessments with learning outcomes. And then we determine whether our assessments or our ways are measuring deep understanding, performance, and content. All right? So there. So again, the emphasis here in this principle is as higher education institution, let us really provide opportunity for our students to develop HOTS, no? To develop higher order thinking skills. So siguro if our students are thinking critically, we will not have problems with fake news because then they will determine sources and all that. They'd be very critical about researches that is shared, information that is shared, because then they will validate and all that, no? But aside from Bloom's taxonomy, this is from Bloom's taxonomy and Anderson as well, no? Revised by Anderson. There are other taxonomies, no? And just allow me to present some. Because although Bloom's is very popular, but also it has some feedback as well, no? Na medyo the need to also revise. So let me present from Biggs and Tan's structure of the observed learning outcome. No? So if you're asking if your assessment will measure deep understanding, performance, and content, only in the first level, if you're asking your students to identify or do simple activities or do simple demonstration of something and all that, no? And on the second level, if you ask your students to enumerate, describe, list, or combine and do algorithms, that's something that you wanted to determine among your students. Well, that's multicultural. But we wish that you bring your students, when you assess your students, that they are able to compare and contrast, that they're able to explain causes, that they're able to analyze, they're able to relate, that they're able to apply, no? In the classroom where we discuss the methods, we discuss theories, we discuss laws, we discuss policies. But if they just learn these laws and methods without applying in a different context, that's going to be of disservice. No? They're not learning from there. That means it's just lower level. So let's provide our students opportunity so that they can theorize, they can generalize, they can hypothesize, and they can reflect. But when we assess, do assess with higher order thinking skill. Can they really theorize? Can they really hypothesize? Can they really explain the causes? Then they have developed that higher order thinking skill. So let me present some of the suggested tasks on how to assess deep understanding performance. Say, for example, in the program BS Hospitality Management, if the course outcome is to apply standard safety procedures and food handling foodstuffs, then maybe the assessment task is to use the workplace skill appraisal checklist. There's a suggested checklist, that is formulated by experts from this field. And then the students will request a third party to complete the document. So that's determining if they're able to apply, and there's the tool that is being used, the appraisal checklist. And that the indicator there is that if students are able to handle and store foodstuffs in a manner that avoids damage and contamination, meets hygiene standards, and maintains quality. So that is what they're going to demonstrate, that our faculty will request a third party, or students will request a third party, or maybe a supervisor in the field to use this particular particular tool. So say, for example, in the BS Secondary Education, on the subject or the course Technology for Teaching and Learning, the course outcome may be that the students will have the ability to produce learning resources using technology tools in various areas. So if this is the outcome, dili siguro that they are able to speak English well, if that is the outcome. Because we have to match. That's a first principle. And of course, how do we determine deep understanding? Then maybe the task is that students will create instructional materials using the technology tools, because that is what you've been trying to develop the entire course, And in the BS administration, let's say, for example, the subject is operations management. If the course outcome is apply management theories or methods to various types of organizations, then the assessment task is that students will propose social responsibility strategies and compliance action plan for business. If you notice, they align, and they did not only ask students to enumerate management theories, to identify management theories and all that. the student will have to demonstrate to us that they have deep understanding, that they can perform, and that they know this content. So when we measure, once again, deep understanding, no? So maybe in BS development communication, in the subject introduction to development communication, the course outcome is explain the functions of communication in development. Maybe our faculty may consider, are we going to ask our students to create a diagram? Are we going to ask our students to make a brochure? Are we going to ask our students to write a blog? Anything that will help us determine if students can now explain the functions of communication in development. So that, no? Third, as you said, and I love that when you responded, you said only having one testing method, that's not very promising. So it is a principle of effective assessment that we use multiple measures, no? Use multiple indicators and sources of evidence of student learning, no? This should be of varying kinds and gathered at multiple points in time. Hindi po pwede yung, okay, this is the course module, I'll see you during the final exam. No, alam naman natin ang kind of our students, right? So multiple measures, a lot of ways to tell you whether they are learning, no, and they are going to demonstrate the outcome. So maybe like observations, multiple choice tests, short or longer constructive response item, essays, tasks, project, capstones in various modes, including electronic, laboratory work, presentations, as well as portfolio. Again, the emphasis is, hindi lang po dapat isa lang ang source of your data, no? Second, or the next two, when we design our assessment, use appropriate methods and techniques, and of course, let's consider this things that are practical, no? Remember that when we design our assessment, something that where the amount of work assessed or the amount of assessed work should be manageable, meaningful, and sustainable. So if you can determine if, the same outcome, they can develop the same competency by grouping them, that would help us, no? That is practical. But if asking our students to do individual work and doing all these I don't know, these researches and all that, but it would also make us have no time for our family as well as for other aspects of our lives. That is an impractical assessment ways, no? So assessment should also be inclusive and equitable, no? If you are requiring students to do this, but they also have the difficulty in terms of technology, in terms of their materials, all that, no? So let's consider that. And then tasks and procedures, so maybe consider something where our tasks and procedures do not disadvantage any group or individual, no? Of course, without compromising academic standards. If you can give other tasks to a certain student, but this student will still demonstrate the same academic standards, then maybe that's being inclusive and equitable. And the methods should be suitable to outcomes being assessed, no? Still, really, will this really determine? So if we are asking our students, or if our class is about creative writing, maybe multiple choice is not the best way to determine whether they have learned. So if you're asking, if your students, if you want your students to think critically and make judgments, no, then we do these. No, we can ask our students to do an essay, a report, no, because these assessment methods will actually will make us determine if our students are thinking critically. If you want your students to be showing you that they're solving problems and that they're developing plans, no? Meaning that you want to know whether they're identifying problems, they're posing problems, they're defining problems, they're analyzing data, they're reviewing and designing, and if they are planning and applying information, then do these ways, no? You can give problem scenario, work-based problem, draft a research bid, analyze a case, and all that. No, so I'm just showing this, but don't worry, we're providing you a copy of this PowerPoint, okay, so that you can also review this one. No? So later, our friends from CHED will post this link to download this. And for those who are joining us in the learning management system, we have an area there where all the resources from our resource speakers you can download. No? Okay, so if you're asking your students if you want to determine whether our students are performing procedures and are demonstrating techniques, no, such as you're asking them if you want to determine if they can do computation, if they're taking readings, if they're using equipment, and all that, then maybe you can ask your students to do demonstration, role play, making a video. Of course, that can be challenging in the new normal. But there's a lot of ways our students can be very creative, no, without compromising their health. They can produce a picture or a poster, lab report, no, and all that. So again, our assessments and whatever tools we're using, it has to be appropriate and it has to be practical. So of course, in all these, our assessments should be valid. What do we mean by valid and reliable? When we say reliable, these assessments should yield consistent and stable results. So if a student take it now and a student take it tomorrow or the next week, they will still get the same result. And that's the reason why IQ tests are highly reliable before they even ask that to be floated, and that entrance exams should be highly reliable because we use the result to make decisions. No? But in our class, if our students will take it now and take it tomorrow, they should have at least the same score for us to consider that our assessment is reliable. Pero sabi nyo, ang basin naka-study, basin hindi naka-review. That means go back to the other principle, meaning that you're not really measuring deep understanding. Maybe you're just measuring recall. No? Kung maka-study siya niya, ma-improve ang iyahang ano. Because in our assessment, it has to measure skill. It has to measure deep performance and understanding. No? So, when you're using your assessment tool, if they have it, they have it. If they don't have it, it will show. No? So, walang, ano. So, and then of course, our tool, we try to measure what it's supposed to measure for it to be valid. So all these will also help us. If your assessment tools adhere to this, then they are considered valid and reliable. So, but question now that we will that may be in our minds is, but yeah, how will we assess in this new normal? Remember that we're doing flexible learning modality. No, so we're using learning management system and all that. So we have a course module because of the learning, because of this learning modality. Meaning that if this is sent out through your LMS, if your institution did not have an LMS, through our students' email or through Facebook Messenger, how do we assess using that? No? Social media and technology tools. So the next slide will I'm going to share based from my experience. So, say for example, this time, in the past, during our face-to-face, in-person or residential mode of learning, we ask our students to do student presentations of outputs, right? They're in front of us, they're using PowerPoint, and they're explaining, they're reporting and all that. But in the assessment, remember that we do not encourage face-to-face, no? Maybe a blended if things will be better. So our suggestion is that maybe students create their PowerPoint with narration or with their video explaining their output, and then they upload that in YouTube, and then they send you the link, and it's determining the same outcome. Are they able to explain? Are they able to analyze? No, are they able to and then it's the same for faculty, that the concepts we are able to determine whether concepts are correct and accurate. no? So you can do that. So our PowerPoint is very powerful. Like you can click and then you can put voice there, no? And then when we send it to our faculty, it's PowerPoint, but this time it's with a voice. All right. So in the past, when we had face-to-face, so what happens if mobalik na ta sa normal? I'm praying and I'm still very, very hopeful. Still, no, these tips can be used as you do blended learning. So in the past, our assessment is we do in-front consultation as well as feedbacking. We really tell our students, this is do you do this? Can you please improve on this? But of course, we don't do it right now. No, we cannot do it right now because we don't want to risk our health of our faculty as well as students. So what we can do is we can assign in advance the day and the time to meet the group through Facebook Live. So it has to be very clear in the course guide. This particular person, this particular groups, I will meet them live at 9:30 and something like that. No, so still the same assessment method, the same assessment results, but different modality. So also another way of doing that. Remember, in the past we really rate and make corrections on the and make feedback, no, and make some notes on submissions of our students. Here we can use the review function in MS Word, no. So you can in the MS Word you can highlight and then you can click new comment and the comments will appear there, and then we send it back to our students. So it's the same, meaning that it's the same result, that we are able to provide feedback without risking our health, no, without seeing face to face. In the past, you wanted to determine whether they have developed that analysis skill, that critical thinking by using class debate. Of course, we cannot do that anymore in front, but you can use debates in the discussion forum in the learning management system. No discussion, just provide rules like this discussion forum 1, this is for the group 1 and group 1 and 2 debate. This discussion forum 2, group 2 and 3, and then maybe you can also have rules like after the first group will present their own arguments, the second group, we will wait for the second group. So it could also be not live. You know? They can do this at their own time. You know? So it's an asynchronous way in the learning management system. So in the past, we are really asking our students to do an essay, no, in front of us. But of course, in the flexible learning, you can ask students to use the blogs in the learning management system, or you can ask them to really just write on Microsoft Word document and then submit and then send you through email, through Messenger, no? Or it can be as a response to a discussion forum. So the teacher will create a discussion question there in our learning management system, and each of our students will respond, no? But do tell them if you're grading them, do tell them the number of words, and then do tell them if you want them to respond to their classmates' thoughts. But based from experience, I have to tell my students to only use 150 characters, to also have references, and then to also respond to only 2. Because if I just place there, respond to your classmates' thoughts. And then we have this student na kakaririn talaga niya, respond siya ng respond. And then I said, I also have experience that I have to say, when you respond, do not just say, I agree. Which part of the lines there you agree? So we are giving also in this flexible learning an opportunity for our students to actively participate and be engaged. No? So there are ways. Okay. So in the past we have had group work, right? But here you have your students and all that. Okay. So let me proceed. So in the past, I was in the time where I was sharing on what can we do in this flexible learning, no? Face-to-face. In the past, we have group work, okay? In the past, we have group work. And then here, we have, maybe we can use the Zoom breakout rooms if you subscribe to it, but that can be expensive. But you can also use your Google Classroom in your groupings of your students. All right, but of course you can use the Messenger and the Facebook because that's very familiar, that's kind of cheap for our students, and that's very accessible. Needed low bandwidth. So students may discuss using Messenger or group while brainstorming. For some of my friends in Facebook who are quite worried, yung hacker po kasi parang it's not really attacking the speaker, no? It's parang ano siya set parang naka default ang iyang mga story and all that. Okay, so we're back. Thank you for staying around even if we're experiencing some technical glitch. Okay, actually we can learn from this experience. So another that why is still group work in the flexible learning? Because again, even if this is the situation that we are not doing face-to-face, we do not forget that we're also helping them develop the 21st century skill, which is collaboration. So right now we can also ask our students to that they can work their project in Google Drive. All right. So, but in the past, that we also have time quiz with instructor as proctor, right? So we can also use the quiz feature in LMS there. So in LMS, you can design a quiz, you can schedule a quiz, you can create the quiz now and schedule it at a time or open it at a time where your students are scheduled to take it. So use the quiz feature, no? But set the allotted number of minutes for the students to take the quiz. No? The timer countdown is shown as all throughout the quiz. No? All right. So we can also use the quiz feature in the LMS. Okay, so all right. Okay, but just a reminder for our faculty to consider. Remind students that once the start is clicked, no, timer begins automatically. Kasi po, parang natataranta mga estudyante na countdown din for 15 minutes only and all. All right. In the past, we have had designing, programming activities in class and whatever you have, no. But right now, since they cannot perform in front of us anymore, we can have students record their creating the design time as time lapse. Okay, so that's a suggestion. Or they can upload the video. They will upload the video and submit the link as assignment. Assignment is just the term in Moodle. No, anything that is submitted by the student. So in my class, I use their say for example podcast. No, this is a performance task or something like that. No, okay. But they can also scan the design and submit with a signed pledge that they did the work on their own. All right. For those of us who are working on, in the past we have had hands-on and laboratory activities. Therefore, in the assessment, right now in the flexible learning, we can use web tools for simulation activities for our lab. No? So I have tried this. There are also labs that they may be very expensive, but there are also free. No? So here I tried this preparing solutions, maybe for the chemistry. Okay, for the chemistry. So use web tool simulation activities. They can do the pouring thing and all that. All right. So in the past talaga, hindi naman in the past. When we had face-to-face, we had class recitation. No? So right now we can also do that. We can also hear their thoughts, listen to their sharing, listen to their reflection in the LMS. All right. So you can do so when we do some midterm and final exam, you can do this also in your class. No, you can also use this in the LMS where you create your multiple choice. Here is an example of a multiple choice in LMS. What is nice there is you can time it, you can schedule it, if your multiple choice item is 1 to 50, you can actually set it to shuffle items, no, and then shuffle the items, shuffle the choices within the items. All right, so you can do that. This is an example of my quiz in our virtual learning environment in USDP. But of course, right now we changed the interface. So it's a U-Step now, e-portal of the university. Okay. So now I'm going to proceed because it's on about our multiple choice. So can I just have a little review on how we construct our multiple choice, because this is a very powerful assessment way, no? Assessment type of test. So say for example that one is a question. So just terms. The question is called a stem. The answer is letter A, and that is what we call a key. And then anything that is not an answer, we call them distractors. Other specialists will call them options. Okay, options. All right. So item that is very important, item writing, that is guideline that is very important, is that distractors have to be plausible. Plausible, meaning that when a student is reading this, those who have not developed, who have not reached the outcome, should not be able to obviously determine the answer. The answer should only be glaring to those who have developed the skill, to those who have read, to those who have really studied, to those who have really learned. No? So that one. So thank you very much, Paul. So again, as we move to just a reminder on your multiple choice. Let's just say, for example, this, no? Jill spends most of her waking hours checking the doors and windows and taking showers. Is displaying something like that. So our suggestion is, if you notice, our student will have to look, no? Our student will have to determine muna ano kaya gusto ipagawa ng aking, because the STEM is not very clear. So the suggestion is that we really tell our student in our STEM that they identify the behavior and the disorder displayed. So maybe the question is, identify the behavior and the disorder below. No? There. Okay. Sige po. Okay, how about this? The Bushinger effect. Parang it's not very clear, no? What will we expect from our students? No? So let us improve this. Okay, and then we avoid repetitive words. Can you notice that? No? Which is filled, which is filled, which is filled. So maybe pwede namang lahat ng yun na nasa STEM. Okay? Alright. So how is the brain protected from injury? Maybe like that. So just a reminder, lahat ba ng item should be in question form? Pwede namang hindi, no? If number 1 is best asked using the question form, number 2 is best asked using a question, a declarative form, and dili kailangan pareho tanan okay. Okay? Sige po. And then, of course, minimize the use of all of the above and none of the above in the options. So look at this, no? I'll give you an example. What if the student have read this? According to discharging energy, yielding occurs when A, discharging energy reaches a critical value. Hindi naman siya wrong, pero hindi niya talaga nabasa until letter D na all of the above. No? So that will create an overlapping alternative. So if the student is not wrong naman, then they answered A, but of course for this particular, all of the above lang. No? Sige po. I'd like to discuss more on the performance-based assessment, but maybe I'll just bring this to the to tomorrow more. So allow me to go faster as the time is also quite limited. So if I'm going to provide you a situation where you are hiring a driver, are you going to ask a driver, are you going to hire a driver that passed the written test but failed the actual driving test? Are you going to hire a driver that failed the written test but passed the actual test? So some of you may be going to answer me, pwede namang, parang wala. Delikado ang buhay, A or B. So maybe avoid a pattern. Salamat, Rosemary, in the multiple choice, that's correct. No? And then, siguro you wanted to get those who pass both the written and the actual test. So, what is our point? Our point here is that there's no such thing as which is a better and preferable assessment. Is it the written or the performance? It has to be balanced. No? Remember our principles of assessment. No? So let's talk about a bit on authentic performance assessment. So exactly what is a task? Anything that is that will ask our students to apply, that involves individual or group work, or anything that will ask our students to do problem solving, retention, and transfer. But it is encouraged that we do performance tasks that is authentic, meaning that we're providing challenging and engaging tasks, no, which resemble the context in which adults do their work. Okay, so performance are students are allowed adequate time to plan, to complete the work, to self-assess, to revise, and consult with others. Must be judged by the same kinds of standards. No? So when do we consider it performance authentic? When you're asking your students, no, people from hospitality management, when we ask our students to do some performance tasks, the tasks that they're going to do are those that are really in the real context, no, and that is done by professionals in the field. So for a performance to be authentic, there are three factors, no? Task, context, and evaluation criteria. All right. So when we do assess performance assessments, no, when we create or design, again, balik-balik talaga, no? The assessment should match our performance. And then we write engaging scenario. And then we design performance tasks. And then we create, a rubric. But tomorrow I'll be the ones, I will have an opportunity to really discuss with you in detail how to create a rubric. No? So match and then write an engaging scenario. And then maybe you can use the word, the GRASS method or the scrap method. All right. Let me show you. My sample from my students, or what I did in class. Okay, so here. So I asked my students to do a podcast because the outcome here is that I should be able to know whether they have learned the techniques on truth tables and all that. So I made GRASS, stuff. The goal is for you to make a podcast, then you give them what is the role, and then you present to them a situation, and then you give them exactly what they're going to submit. But I made here that for them to know which criteria I'm going to base their performance, the rubric is available, and it has to be, it has to be submitted on that particular day. So I have what is the quality of your podcast product? Read the rubric and see the expectations under the exemplary column. It is your choice to which level of performance you wish to deliver. So I'll get back to my presentation. There. Okay. So what are the different roles? We will provide you with this PowerPoint. Okay, what are the different products that you can ask your students? Provide you. This is just a list and suggestions that you can choose from. So you will get a copy. We will give you a link in YouTube where you can download this copy, but you can also join us in our learning management system if you register, okay? And then we design 3 or 4 tasks, okay? So some examples of tasks, you can ask your students. You can also ask your students to do this, especially if you're asking your students to apply or evaluate, okay? So there, no, this is an example of my students, and this is an example of a learning management system where they submit, okay? This was last year. So when they submit, anong napulo raman na nag-submit, ma'am, because this is group 1. Okay, so only the leader submitted. Okay, so that's a sample of a performance task. That's a sample of a performance task. So again, I've shown you some assessment tasks suggested in our shared memorandum, no? Where the emphasis is really align course outcomes assessment tasks and really ask your students to do some performance that the professionals are doing in the field. Okay, so again, I'm just so again, when we are assessing our students with performance tasks, the results that results in original products and solutions. Remember that the issue here is basin mag-Google sila, basin mag-cheat sila. So then that has something to do with how we assess our task and how we design our performance tools. Okay, so there. So what we have discussed, I hope I have shared and that you find this helpful despite the glitch, which we do not have any control. So let the glitch not affect us as we proceed, no, as we really prepare. So here, so because of that experience, we will be careful with people that we allow in Zoom, and then you too, you can take this experience, no, as you consider your instruction in the new normal. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Amphy, for that substantial and worthwhile discussion. Our viewers must have taken notes and took into themselves the important points of properly designing assessments. But should you have questions addressed to Dr. Amphy, send them to the comment section and we will cater to them later in the Q&A portion. So we understand that we experienced some technical glitch, so please, we are asking for your patience, and we may extend a bit of our time now for this webinar. Okay, so before we proceed to our next speaker, now I would like to give this soft reminder for those who are registered to the LMS that as of the moment, we are still on student mode, but ultimately the goal is to create a community of professionals where all of us can share resources to one another. You may also respond to discussion forums that may be posted by our moderators. Should you consider it important to submit your workshop outputs, please register as soon as possible. And lastly, we are asking for your feedback to our webinars. It is important for us that we know if we have given you the webinars you truly deserve. And it is also our way to improve our sessions and presentations. So to do this, you just have to go to the link that is provided. There's Facebook on the CHED Regional Office 10's official Facebook page. Now let me introduce you to our next speaker. So let me just share my screen again. Okay. So our next speaker, he earned his undergraduate and master degree at USTP, formerly known as MUST, where he graduated BS in Electrical Engineering and Master in Engineering program, major in Electrical Engineering, respectively. He is a certified CDIO Master Trainer, trained at Singapore since 2014. Included in his CDIO training is Advancing CDIO, which was funded by Temasek Foundation. And since 2011, he is the department chairperson of USTP CDO's Electrical Engineering Department. All right, so please help me welcome Engineer Rogen V. Morcilia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Arvin, for that introduction. No? The talk of Ma'am Amphi was quite a bit very interesting. No? Even me as a speaker has very learned from that the topic of Ma'am Amphi. No? So what I'm going to do today is actually to share no, how do I plan with respect to my performance task, because Ma'am Amphi discussed a while ago regarding performance tasks, and that's part of the assessment. So let me share my screen. Okay. So my topic is actually on transforming a performance innovative tasks and task performance activities to online assessment. So there's a lot of options that we have in as what Ma'am have discussed to us, and how are we going to transform our face-to-face instructions and assessment, doing assessment, to this they are flexible learning. So what I'm going to share to you today is how am I planning to transform my PITs as well as my class performance activities to this online activities or assessment that we have. So this is an example of my performance innovative task at normal. So my course that I am teaching usually is in electrical engineering. This is one of the performance tasks. Somewhat this is a summative assessment for them. It's a course for circuit theory 1 performance task using simple circuits in solving real world problems. So for this particular task that we have going to do for the student is that the course outcome is that they need to be able to apply the basic laws, theorems, and supplementary topology to create actual circuit as a team. So this is the course outcome for this particular particular task for the student. So although this subject has 3 course outcome, but for this particular task, it is pinpointed, is aligned to this particular course outcome. So as you have here, I put the instructions like using the current situation. Usually they are doing it in the university. No? In our university, identify a prevailing problem experienced by either the faculty, student, staff, and other workers in the university. So this first one is to identify the problem. Then afterwards, they will gain insights. So with the identified problem, they will gain insights from the problem. People are experiencing the problem. And after that, from the insights, they will identify the root cause of the problem and brainstorm to create innovative solutions. So, but since this is a subject for circuit theory 1, the solution should have the following features. So I put the features that it should only use DC circuit and reporting basic theorems, laws, and elements of a circuit. And fundamental components in the design should be the following elements: so resistor, inductor, capacitors, and battery. So those are basic components. So I just put a limitation for this particular task in order for them to be aligned to this for the course. So after the introduction, so what they will do is to create a prototype. No, they will create it as a rigid, eye-catching, and clean circuitry to make it more competitive. Each group will present their prototype through an exhibit. So they will have an exhibit, and they will make a written report and a video of the design and performance of each own project. So each group will compete with each other to see which project is the most significant, and the best group in the class will be competing with other sections, because I have several sections at this time. So also part of this task is put their date, deliverables, and schedule. So I'll put there when they are able to deliver the problem identification, the second and third week, they will gain insight on the fourth and fifth week. They will do the project proposal on the 10th week, and they will create the prototype on the 15th week. They will have the report and the video on the 18th week. So such a way, this is a task for the whole semester. So kumaga, this was given to the student at the start of the class so that they will see that this will be their direction. No? So this is what I give to them in the normal situation before this COVID, this pandemic. So what is now my plan in implementing the same, no, the same task for the same course outcome in this new normal. So this is what I have planned. So since part of this assessment is that yung kanina sinabi ni Ma'am Amphi that there should be a match between assessment and your outcome. So with this, it should be clear that there should be a connection between your task and your with your outcomes. So also before I forget, no, part since I am asking them to give reports, videos, prototype, I also prepare the rubrics. No? This is the rubrics for the project, a rubrics for the written report, and the video. So since I require them for that, so they have to know how do I assess them. So with this rubrics. So I think Ma'am Amphi will be discussing tomorrow about this rubrics. How do we do or create a rubrics? So this is before, no. This is what the will be the result of them of their project. So they will be presenting it in the whole campus of the university. They will have an exhibit there, so everybody can go there. Faculty, students, including visitors, they can go to their project and evaluate and ask questions on their project. It's their task to present their project and get some comments and suggestions from anybody that's part of their task. So this is the exhibit that they have. This are the project that they have also. So now, what happened if it would be online? So what I did is, since that is a big task they have is quite a culminating task or summative assessment for this course. So what I did is I break it into different tasks. So like this one, the first task that I have is that for activity 1 is problem identification. Same task using real world problems, but the first activity that they will do is problem identification. So this is it, no? The same course outcome, and you have the instruction there that using the current situation at your home. So instead at the university, they will now be evaluating at their home or in their community, identifying the prevailing problems experienced by you or by people in the community. And they will make a written report of the problem identification process. So it's also clear there, the deliverables, when are they going to submit it. It's on the 3rd week or August 28, 2020. And attached is there also is the performance task rubrics, yung sa written report rubrics, because I asked them to create a written report, and it's important that student will know that this is how I'm going to grade them, I'm going to assess them. So I put there the rubrics also in this particular first task. So it's the first task, no? And now, when before they submit it and even after you submit it, part of it is yung sa gilid po, as you can see, there should always be feedback. Feedback and consultation time is provided between deadlines po, to guide the students. Since we will not be meeting them face to face, no? In this process of doing the activity, there should always be a feedback. You give time for the student to have feedback and consultation time for them to ask questions regarding this particular activities. So activity number 2 is the gain insights. So after that, if that would be okay, using after feedbacking, etc., and you go to the next task that they will do. So the next task that they will do is to gain insight. So after that, you have the instructions here. So for the same course outcome, so they will have to identify the problem as a group and gain insight from the community. So documented research, observation interview, or a survey may be done. So collaborate as a group to identify the root cause of the problem and make a written report and video on the gain insight conducted. So, and documented report should be presented on how did the group collaborate to determine the root cause of the problem. So, again, they were again tasked to create a written report and a video. So that's why I also attached there the performance task rubrics for video and rubrics for the written report so that they will know how they are also being assessed. So with this, no, as you can see, in this particular task, they are now working as a group. So how do I plan that they will be working as a group? So syempre, I'll ask them to have a chat, no? Like for example, they will use the group chat on Facebook, no? That's part of the report that they are going to submit to me. No? How did they arrive to that particular insights for them? So we need to present a documented brainstorming or documented chat on how the group have arrived to the particular insights on the particular problem. Also, on task 1, since they are working there individually, since they are in their homes, no? So what I did, what I'm planning to do is that I'll identify common, no? Yung mga common po na mga problem, if this is common to them, that's their group. So they will be grouped according to their common problems. So that's why they will be gaining insight on the same problems that they have identified. So again, always there should be feedback and consultation time provided between deadlines. Next is for activity 3. That's what this is the time that they will do the proposal. No? So the same, they have the instructions that they will, from the insight of the group, have submitted, brainstorm, and propose innovative electrical engineering solutions. So I put there, be open-minded and think out of the box. So the solution should be the following features. So I'll put there the same features that I put in the before the normal. So using DC circuits, incorporating basic theorems, laws, and elements of circuits. The fundamental components in the design should be resistor, inductor, capacitor, and battery. So same, no, same but of difference equation now. So they will create now a project proposal, and again, they will now propose through a video using PowerPoint. So the video should present how would the project could solve the problem. So that's the time. Also, then part here is they will. I'll put there the schedule of when to submit this requirement. So again, I'll put there the rubrics for the video and the rubrics for the written report because they are going to submit the following to me. So in lieu of the presentation of the project proposal, they will now be creating a video in using the PowerPoint. So again, feedback and consultation time is provided between deadlines. And performance task number for activity 4, so na-chop na siya into 4. The fourth one is this is the task that they will now be creating the prototype. So with your group proposed project, they will now be creating a prototype. So with a rigid structure, body catching, and break down each part of the prototype according to the number of persons in your group and assign each part to each member. Since they are now working individually, what I did is that they have to break the prototype into parts, no? Parts wherein each person of the group can work on each part. They clearly present on how they are going to integrate the parts. So now they will clearly present on how they are going to be integrated, and they will now be presenting the prototype through a video blog in YouTube. So mag-create po sila ng video blog in YouTube Then the video blog should document the process on how the prototype is developed, from problem identification to the creation of the final prototype. Now, how do they compete with each other po, based on the previous one, no? So they will now be competing with each other to see which project is the most significant by a number of views and good comments in YouTube. So this prototype with the most number of views and good comments will gain a badge, which has an equivalent bonus point. So using that, using this, no, you will make the students have the feel that they are having this game in the class. So you encourage them to perform well in doing these activities. So again, I'll put there the schedules of the submission and the rubrics again, so that for the video and the final project, so that they will know how they are being rated also. And the last task that they will do is the final project written report. So the last task is a written report on which the group rated a prototype and make a written report of the whole process. The report should present how the basic laws and theorems and some elementary network topology are applied on a prototype. Also, written report should state your reflection of learning as you create the project. So the important part there is the reflection of what they have learned on the project. So since they are going to create a written report, part of the attachment is again the written report rubrics and the deliverable schedules. Okay, so as what we have observed, one big task is chopped into five different tasks. So somewhat parang naging it's a summative assessment, but chopped into different formative assessment so that they can create the big whole performance task. Because I believe that in this new normal, since it's not the situation is not anymore like the same before. So what will happen here is that the most important part there is the feedbacking. So do not give the student a big chunk, but rather just small chunk, small chunk, and the feedback and consultation for this activity or this task should be always there to guide the students on their performance of the course, such the way they can attain the whole big chunk. Okay, so the other performance activities in my class also that I am doing before, is this in the face-to-face, is in my class of Introduction to Electrical Engineering, is this class activities on the electrical engineer class activity. So in this task, in face-to-face, what I did is that they will have to interview a particular electrical engineer and ask about its life, ask about its success, ask about its experiences, and they have to present it in the class in a unique way. So in such a way, you can see this in this picture that students are presenting the life of an electrical engineer. Part of this is that they can see what are they going, if they will become an electrical engineer, so what is their work, what is their career, and what will be their life. So you can see here some are doing the diorama, some are doing the drama, they are doing the radio presentation, even they can have like this dance here, they can have like a video, like a TV show. They will have a TV show here, then other way of presenting here. So this is how they present it in the before the normal. So it's in face-to-face. But how do I see this? How do I plan to do this if we are now going to this new normal situation where student cannot anymore do this like this activity? So what I was planning to do is you have instructions here, same activity, so you have the course outcome, the electrical engineering career activity 1, course outcome. The students are able to explain the needed and importance of electrical engineering professions and various areas of electrical engineering. So in this activity, no, ILO is they are going to present the possible career of an electrical engineer. So you should put the instructions there with your area of community identify, area or community, so in their home, in their community, identify an electrical engineer, registered or a professional, and with your identified electrical engineer, conduct a research on the story. They should be able to know how he became the electrical engineer, experiences, responsibilities, and importance of his work. So they will now create a 3-minute video presentation. So of the chosen electrical engineer, and they should be creative, artistic on the video. So submit the video on or before the specific deadline. So this is the deliverable date, August 28, 2020. And I also attach there again the video rubrics so that they will know how they are going to be assessed. Okay po. Now, another activity in my class is working with electrical appliances. So before, what they are going to do is they bring electrical appliances in the university in our class, and they will have to dismantle it and identify each part and identify its functions. So which part, and they will now be creating a presentation of a unique presentation of the parts of that particular appliances, so that they will know the basic how this part works. No? So they have this unique presentation in the class where students can interact face to face. But now, how do I plan this if we are going to move to this new normal? So this one, since they have the course outcomes number 2, no? Recognize and correctly explain basic electrical terms such as voltage, current, and the ideas of the circuit and the function of basic electrical components, devices, and systems. So ILO is they have to recognize and explain the electrical function of each components of an electrical circuit. So what they will do is that they will find an defective, unused electrical appliances in your home. Example, electric fan, electric iron, etc. And with your defective electrical appliances, take a photo of it and disassemble the parts of the appliance. So they will disassemble the parts on their own, and they have to identify within this disassembled parts. They have to identify each part and evaluate the function of each part. And again, they will now create a video presentation of the electrical appliances. So in lieu of that presentation in the class, they will now create a video presentation, and the video should be at least 3 minutes maximum, and should present their process of disassembly and discussion of the function of each part, make your video creative and eye-catching. So they have to upload the video in YouTube channel, and the video that will have the most number of views and good comments and in video evaluation deadline will gain a badge and equivalent bonus points. Okay po. So to submit, attach the video link on YouTube from YouTube on or before the video upload deadline. So you can see here the deliverable dates. The video upload is on August 21 and the video evaluation is on September, because for this points on the badge. So attached here also is the performance task and electrical on the video that they are going to submit. So what's the important thing here from transitioning to this new normal? When you write these tasks or activity for your students, especially during online, the instructions should be clear and written in such a way that the instructor is talking to the student. So it's important that when the students read the instruction in such a way that the students are hearing the instructor, and hindi siya yung pagka-instruct lang basta lang na instruction po. So it's like that you are talking to your students. Another is that as what presented kanina, yung sa big task ko, I chop it into multiple tasks so that students are guided throughout the way. So somewhat in this new normal man kasi is that guidance, no, and feedback for the students are important, so that they will be guided, especially you will making something on how they can be they can attain that particular outcome that you want them to have, and assess them also, based on that outcome. So again, just like also in my other activities, it should be practical, practical in such a way that they are only considering what is seen in their homes, use their environment in their homes, what they can find in their homes for your activities. Try to be innovative, na ano kayang pwedeng gawin ng estudyante if they are in their homes, and what can be find in their homes, and you can use it in your tasks or activities. And for the same course outcome, and the same task that they will do, but in their home setting. Okay, so they create a video. So I think that's all what I can share with regards to how I'm going to do with my performance tasks, my class activities in this coming new normal. Hopefully, I have shared something also to you, and maybe you can now plan on how you're going to do with respect to your tasks and your activities in your own classes also. So thank you very much, and good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Engineer Rogin, for sharing what you practice. So our co-educators must be inspired to take on the mission of employing those that you have shared with them. Okay, so before we proceed to our Q&A, let me just flash, or rather share my screen, not flash my screen, because we understood that there is a technical glitch, just a while ago. So if you want to have a copy of the presentations of our speaker for today, kindly send us an email at citl@ustp.edu.ph. Okay, so you can request soft copies of the presentations of the speakers for today's session. Okay, and for those who are already in the LMS, you can also access that. I think the moderators will be providing you a link to the presentation where you just have to click on that, and then you can download the presentation. All right, worthwhile discussion for today's session on designing assessments of learning. Before we end this session, I would also like to read some of the comments. Highly satisfactory, excellent and outstanding webinar session from Sir Renovic Repolio. And then we also have a very informative discussion from Ma'am Elise Albiso Lorenton. And your valuable sharing and insights are remarkable. This is from a faculty, I believe, from Bacolod City. So thank you also for those who are watching from Eastern Mindoro College, from Dipolog, from Ifugao State University, from Quezon City, Catanduanes, and Cebu. Thank you very much for your time. All right. So again, we will be uploading all of the resources that our speakers have shared into the LMS, or if you are not yet in the LMS, you can just send us a message through email at citl@ustp.edu.ph. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.